closed around the serpent's eye. Strange and eternal.
As part of the Melbourne International Film Festival this year, I saw Mandy, which is the second film from Panos Cosmatos, and now that it is beginning to open in cinemas as part of a wider release, I thought it would be a good time to talk about it. In preparation for this review, I saw Cosmatos' first and only other feature, Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Hello. My name is Dr. Mercurio Arborea, and I am the founder of the Arborea Institute. Through our unique blend of benign pharmacology, sensory therapy, and energy sculpting, we can guide you to a new, better, happier you.
I wasn't planning on talking about it much, but after seeing it, it really aided my understanding of Mandy, and so I decided the best way to talk about one movie is by talking about a different one. Due to the nature of this video, spoilers for both films are unavoidable and will be prevalent throughout. In 2010, Cosmatos directed Beyond the Black Rainbow, a hypervisual, claustrophobic science fiction thriller. As an introduction to himself and his style, Cosmatos presents tone and visual storytelling even before Mandy as his obvious strong suit. The film for the most part takes place inside of a facility called the Arborea Institute, where psychologically unsound Dr. Barry Nile tortures a girl named Alina who has non-specific telekinetic powers. Within the first 5 minutes of being introduced to the leads, we have a clear sense of their relationship, the power dynamics, and the core tension. Dr. Nile is first introduced with a dense, saturated red light and this industrial humming. We immediately get a well-developed sense of him as an antagonist from his physicality versus Alina's physicality, and the repeated use of bright red whenever Nile is reintroduced into the scene. Torturing Alina by tapping his pencil against his clipboard gave me an immediate sense of petulance, like a bratty, emotionally undeveloped child. This character continues throughout the film to display self-importance, act juvenile, and overindulge in conflict and emotion. Since the film will later go on to explore the childlike and irrational instigation of conflict, it's obvious why our antagonist is characteristically weasel-like. The film draws a very important connection to Ronald Reagan and his declaration to create a weapons network in space in case of a Russian attack, an instance of human dignity being sacrificed for weaponization out of paranoia, which this film obviously makes comments on through Alina. Beyond the Black Rainbow's entire cast of characters are compelling, and each individual member contributes a really fresh dynamic that propels the action. My favorite of which is when Rosemary, the cigarette-smoking assistant, finds Dr. Nile's files, and then later is passively intimidated in her office by him. The character work in this film is really great, and my first problem with Mandy is that it has the inverse. Mandy is fundamentally two halves of two different toned movies that are connected by an event and a character, like Alien and Aliens. The first half of Mandy is tonally similar to Beyond the Black Rainbow. We're introduced to Nick Cage as Red and Andrea Riseborough as Mandy, and they love each other very much. We know this because we see them talk about their favorite planets, and lay down next to each other, and recite poetry. The chemistry between the two characters was absent, and I had no investment in them being in love for the majority of the hour. It's not that I'm disinterested in low narrative work. I really enjoyed Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker, and I'm a strong defender of new Terrence Malick, but the dialogue and poetry was pretentious, and whilst I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure most of it was pointless. The only narrative component in the first half is Jeremiah, a crazed, obsessive cult leader. When I saw Jeremiah, I thought he was a decent antagonist, but retroactively I was just appreciating the same developmental techniques that Cosmatos used to develop Dr. Nile. The separation between those two characters, though, is how they are utilized through the film as a whole. Dr. Nile is the centerpiece of Black Rainbow and is perpetually reincorporated throughout, as the central point is the relationship between him and Alina. Jeremiah, however, crops up every so often throughout the first half of the film, only to remind you that he's there and to occasionally propel what you might call a plot forward. And then in the second half, we don't see him again until the end. He lacks a strong motivation in the first half, and then no motivation in the second. Realistically, I don't care about him as a villain, which is fine, assuming that I found the other leads compelling, which I did not. Since the second half of the film is propelled by an emotional investment of a character I don't really care about in the death of another character that I also don't care about, you can imagine why I felt unsatisfied with the poorly paced revenge sequences that make up the second half of this film. I wish that I could say that a poor transition into a different, rushed tone is a first for Cosmatos, but sadly the Black Rainbow suffers from the same problem. An hour and 32 minutes into the Black Rainbow, Alina escapes while Dr. Nile is distracted in a melodramatic confrontation with a side character named Margot, a potentially great conclusion. This would have fed into one of the film's themes, which is being more preoccupied with conflict itself to notice what is actually happening. Regrettably, the film does not end there, and this signifies a sharp decline in tone, style, and substance. 10 minutes of chasing eventuate in a 5-minute confrontation in a field where Dr. Nile talks to Alina, gets his foot caught on a stick, then falls over on his own accord, hitting his head and dying. Mandy's second half is a lot faster than its first. Enemies are dispatched quickly and with little struggle. As an audience member who is detached from the hero, doesn't care about the motivation, and then sees half of the bikers killed within 10 seconds of each other, I'm losing any sense of tension or threat surrounding the protagonist. When all of these elements are stripped away, all Mandy has is its humor, which didn't work for me, its references that I don't care about, its visual style, which was a lot better utilized for narrative in Beyond the Black Rainbow, Nick Cage, and then finally the Johan Johansson score, which was easily the best part of the film for me. Mandy only had a handful of moments that appealed to me. The scene where Nick Cage mourns in the bathroom drinking from a bottle, and the chainsaw fight are my two favorite moments. As a whole, Mandy pales in comparison to Beyond the Black Rainbow, and even though I didn't like Mandy, I'll watch whatever Panos Cosmatos does next. I'm giving Beyond the Black Rainbow a 7.5 out of 10, and I'm giving Mandy a 5 out of 10. If you liked this cross review, you might like some of my short form written pieces, or just my ratings on Letterboxd. You can find me at letterboxd.com/FaircloughJ.